Okay, so we're going to continue with our boy Tom Haverford here, and we've already gone over duotones now for web, and showed you how we can use some cool complementary colors there to make some duotones there. But we're going to go a little bit further into some text, and I'll show you what we can do with text and layer masks. Which I briefly introduced this when we first went into layer masks, but I'll show you in practice here some things we can do there, and then I'll show you how we can use two duotone layers to create some really cool things with color and text. But just really quickly here, just to kind of preview what I'm talking about here, if we just make a new layer and select our paint bucket tool, make sure that's white, and we'll just click. So if we turn that off, we can see. So we have a white layer underneath. And then if we create a new layer and we go to our text tool, now I went into Typekit and I found this text Blenny, which I thought was really cool. If you want to take a moment and pause the video and get that text to work alongside with me here, you can. But you can use any text. I just thought it was kind of fitting for this image. But that's the text there, Blenny. And let's just, Tom Haverford is smooth, or so he thinks. So just type that out here, smooth. Okay, so we have our text, we have our layer, and then a background image, and then a background that's white. And just let me show you really quick what we can do with a layer mask. So recall, if we hold Command and click on our layer on the thumbnail here, we see that square box that comes up around the finger when I press Command or Control if you're PC. If I Command click, that loads the selection, right? It doesn't pick anything on the layer. It just brings up what that selection is. And if I click to any other layer, we can see the selection stays up. So what I want to do here is I want to load that selection, the text as a selection, and then I can go ahead and just turn this eye off. So then we can see, right? We just have the selection of the text, right? And if I go on to the layer with Tom on it, right? And now if I come down here to create layer mask, watch and see what happens. So that takes away everything, right? That clips everything out. And the text is revealed by the image underneath, or at least the image underneath is coming through the text. And if I click and I move, these two are linked together, right? They're paired together because of this link right here. But if I unlink that, then I can move this around, right, through the image. And the nice thing is if I want to transform this, I can Command T, and I can still make changes, right, to that layer mask and the text. So that's one thing, right, we can do. We're continuing with duotones here. Now, yeah, how does this apply to duotones? Well, let me show you here. So we're going to take this text trick here by revealing the image underneath, and we're going to combine that with a second duotone layer building off of the last video. So let me show you here. So let's go ahead and and then as we can see, I just turned that eye off with the text, but you could, in theory, once you get your selection, you could just delete that layer. Yeah, and then we still have, oh, and then, yeah, so be careful here. Remember, if you're clicked on the layer mask or the image underneath, right? So I'm clicked on Tom, and then I actually was moving him around. So just be aware, clicking back and forth between your layer mask and the original image. So let's delete that. Oh, let me get Tom open again here. Okay. So let's set up where we left off last time. So let's go ahead and I'm going to unlock this, create a layer, and I'm going to create a new layer, paint that to white underneath. Okay, we can see that's white. And then I'm going to use my quick selection tool, make sure I'm back on Tom, and let's just do a cutout, or let's do a selection here. Now, for the purposes of these instructional videos, I don't necessarily make the best selections, but I would say for you guys, you might want to pause the video and spend some time on the selection. Recall, right? We've now learned how to go into the select and mask feature. So I would get some practice, right? Getting your rough selection. I'm going to move this. You can still see my keystrokes. I'm just going to move that off to the side. I would suggest going into the select and mask and getting this even further, right? Playing with those global refinements and that refine edge brush tool, right? So I'm not going to go too far into it, but I have my selection here, okay? And then I'm going to once I had this all perfect, and then just for the sake of the exercise, I just Command C, Command V, so I made it a new layer here, okay? And then I'm actually going to just delete this one. So I have Tom, and then I have a blank layer, and then now I'm going to create my gradient map, okay? And I'm just going to use one of these defaults here. You can pick any one you'd like there. Okay, so this is where we left off, right? So that last video I was showing you, right? This is how, a lot of companies like Apple and Spotify have been, doing similar things to this. And we could add in text and do other things, but I'll quickly show you how we can do a few tricks here that are interesting ways to play around with texture and color. So notice right now this bottom layer is blank. So I mean, if this is a little bit too plain for you, you could always, let's see what happens when I load an image of a texture in, for example. So I'm going to come up to place embedded, and I'll provide this texture image for you as well. But I have this just photo right here of just some texture, and I'm just going to place that right on top, and we can see it's the top layer, so it's right on top of everything. And I'm going to just size this up. So okay, so that doesn't look very good at all, but here's where we're going to go into some of our, just notice the positioning where it is in our layers. It's at the very top, so it's on top of everything, and the blend mode is at normal. Now we're going to go into blend modes more so later on, but you can just, if you kind of scroll down through this menu, you can get a preview of what each one of these blend modes is doing, right? So remember, each of your layers, think of each of your layers as kind of a transparent sheet of glass almost, and the two layers can interact in different ways, and more opaque than others. They can blend, they can multiply, they can lighten. But again, so here we can just see some quick previews of what those would look like. But keep it on normal for now. And notice if we take that texture image and we put it underneath the gradient map, we can see the gradient map then affects the texture. If we take the texture image and we place it underneath Tom, we see that Tom comes through, and then the background is all of that texture. And then if we put it underneath the layer, then we're going to see none of that texture map because it's underneath everything. So you can place it anywhere you'd like. I'm going to put it right underneath Tom, but if you wanted to put it above Tom, notice how it cuts him out. But if you come to your blend mode again, there's going to be different things you can do to make those two layers interact. And you can get some pretty cool, like this color dodge one, right? If you were looking for a really weathered or scratched up duotone, you could play with that. But I'm just gonna, I'll leave it on darken, that's okay. So now we have these four layers. We have our gradient map, we have our texture, and we have Tom, and then we have that background layer, okay? So moving forward here, one thing we could do if we just want to keep this tidy is we could shift click all of this together, and we could Command G, put that in a group. I'm just going to put duotone Tom, okay? So nice and clean here, okay? Now let me show you a cool little trick we can do with text and another gradient map. So I'll go slow here, and you may want to resort back to this, later on in some of the projects that you have. You might want to, incorporate this technique. So we'll go slow here. So what we're going to do is let's say we want to bring back that smooth text. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new layer, okay? And I'm going to come to my text tool, and I'm going to type out smooth again, okay? And then I'm going to use my move tool, V, I'm going to just put that right there. Okay? Now, we don't really need this text in our face right now, so I'm just gonna hide it, but the text is still there. You can keep it up if you'd like, but just for just for transparency and to make this a bit easier, I'm just gonna hide that text. Okay, and then I'm gonna open up that old group, and I'm gonna copy Tom, right? The original image from this working document here. So layer 2 right here, that's Tom. So I'm gonna just Command C and then Command V. Okay, notice that copies right there, layer 3. And then I'm gonna pull this all the way out of that group and put it right underneath that text layer. Okay, and then I can collapse that group again. I just needed to get a copy of Tom again. Okay, and V, and I'm going to just line that back up with where he was. So notice I pulled him outside of the group, so he's on top of that gradient map. So now he's not affected by the gradient map anymore. He's in normal color. Okay, that's okay. So don't worry about that, because we're going to make a new gradient map on top of this second copy of Tom. Okay, so we have that original image underneath the text, right? But above this group right here. Okay. So now make sure you're on this layer, and we're going to create another gradient map. Okay. And here you can choose whatever colors you'd like. I don't know. I'm just going to use a preset here just for time. Maybe that's a little bit too. Okay. So once you have your other gradient map selected, go ahead and hit OK. Okay, so we have our text layer that we've hidden, we have our gradient map, and then we have a copy of the original image of Tom, minus the background, just Tom there. Okay? So now what we want to do is we want to put these two, we want to put the gradient map and Tom, we want to put these two in a group. So I'm going to Command G, and I'm going to put, let me just name this, Duotone Tom 2. Okay? And coming back to our text, right? Turn that on, you can see it, right? What we want to do is we want to load the selection, right? Just like I showed you kind of at the beginning of this. So we're going to Command click on the thumbnail here. That loads the selection, right? And then you can turn off the eye again if you'd like. Okay. And notice, no matter where I click, that selection is still up. Okay. And then from here, this is where we're going to create a layer mask. So make sure you're on the second group that you created, Duotone Tom 2 here. And with the text loaded as a selection here, now we're going to go ahead and click Layer Mask down here. Right, add Layer Mask. Okay, so what that did is it created a layer mask. It removed all of that information, and then now it's revealing what's behind. It's revealing that second duotone layer. So notice the layer mask is being applied to what's in group 2, so that gradient map and that copy of Tom. Right, so if I uncheck this here and I'm on the layer, I can click and I can move this around, and notice it's allowing whatever it's going through is that second gradient. That second gradient is showing through wherever this text is going, and then I can still Command T, and I can still make changes to this and move things around, right? And then once I have things where I want, I'd want to lock that again, but you could still make adjustments. And then even with its, so remember, we have 2 copies of Tom here. If I click on this layer and I moved him, oops, that's the background. So here's where I'd want to turn auto select off if I'm getting things like that, right? So notice I have 2 copies of Tom, so this one I'm moving around, right? And it's showing the bottom one underneath. So I could, I could do things to that second version of Tom if I wanted to, just make a second one here for emphasis. Okay. And then this original text layer, we can just delete that. We don't need that at all anymore. Okay, so make sure you send this image to me as one of your weekly exercises and just follow along here step by step. But I just want to see that you're able to do the 2 duotone layers with the text reveal like this. So just send this to me as one of your weekly exercises. That way I can check it. If you have any questions, you can email me. I know there's kind of a lot of different steps here, but just go through the video step by step. And again, if you get confused on anything, you know, and you can't quite get it from the video, then just send me an email and I can help you out there.